Hey everyone, Eric Thompson here. Hope that you are doing well. Welcome back to the channel as we review the labor and delivery of Hannah Frances Thompson, who's not even, you sent me a story, not barely 48 hours old.
Yeah, not quite.
And so we didn't take her to the church, we didn't take her to the bakery, we took her straight to YouTube, okay, as is our way. But so many people have been making our Facebooks explode on a atomic level, and so we thought let's take it to the streets. Let's do a video and kind of go through a bit of the story and the experience. Certainly things that we not only did not show in pictures, but things we didn't want to say until we had a chance to say it with our own mouths. And so Miss Tori, of course, lived it, and I sort of tried to keep up being the photographer and coach and encourager. And so I want you to start. Take us to Sunday night and just walk us through the week.
Okay. Sunday night, I don't know. Monday, as long as she stays asleep. Or mostly asleep. She's kind of hanging in there.
I'll try not to yell.
So Monday in the afternoon, I had a doctor's appointment. Eric went with me, and it was, basic what they do every time. And he checked to see how far I was dilated and stuff, and we were at maybe a centimeter. I think he was saying that to be nice, honestly. Like last time he said half a centimeter-ish. So I think it was sort of you're kind of making progress.
Plus or minus, yeah.
But suffice to say, not much had happened, but we also knew that, sometimes that doesn't matter, and you can be at 3 centimeters dilated for weeks and not have anything happen, or you can go from 0 to whatever suddenly. But that's where we were. And I was just getting to the point where I kind of would notice, like, I think I'm having a Braxton Hicks contraction, but not 100% sure. Pretty sure maybe this is it. I hadn't really been feeling them at all up till then. And so at that point, I was just a couple days over 40 weeks. We were thinking, might still be a while. And Dr. Joe Haynes wanted to talk about what we might do as far as induction at my next appointment, which was on Thursday. So we wouldn't start inducing for sure before I got to like 41 weeks, but we needed to kind of start thinking about it in case nothing happened, because they could only let me go so far, at a standard OB practice, which, we know that when we got into it, when we started going to a doctor, we knew that'd be the way there was. So I wasn't really worried yet, but that's where we were. And I went to bed around like 1 a.m. and around 2 a.m. I started having what felt like menstrual cramps, but I could kind of time them. Like I feel like I'm having a cramp for 20 seconds, and then I don't for 5 minutes or whatever, just as an example. So I'm starting thinking, maybe this is early labor, maybe. And I get up, and they were getting stronger and getting more painful, and I don't know, should I wake up Eric? I took a shower. I was kind of getting excited, and so from like 2 to 4 a.m. they're getting stronger and closer together. And I told Eric, but he was going to keep sleeping in case. And then
to be ready in case we were going to go to the hospital,
right?
Which was possible. I said, let me rest, and so then when it's time to go, I'm strong. I'm ready. Yeah.
So this is going on, starting at like 2 a.m. up till like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. something. I texted my mom even. I was like, just so you know, today could be the day, because she was going to take the day off work. And they were getting really strong. I threw up. I was having trouble handling the pain. I couldn't lay down in bed anymore. I'm like, this is done. And so I'm timing them, and they're getting to be like 30 seconds long every 3 to 5 minutes or so. Not super regular, pretty close together, but not long enough that someone would say you're probably ready to come in. Because the rule that they generally say from the hospital is contractions every 5 minutes that last a minute for at least 1 hour, 5-1-1. And, I was even thinking I'd rather make it, like a contraction every 4 or 3 minutes, because I don't want to be doing most of my laboring at the hospital. I'd rather kind of do what I can while I'm at home. But they are never getting nearly that long. They're never getting close to a minute. It's more like 30-second contractions based on how I'm feeling them. And so we've got our stuff ready to go. I call the labor hall, and they're like, well, you could come in. It doesn't sound like you're necessarily in labor yet because this is normally the length of contractions. It's normally a minute. You're only at 30 seconds, but you're welcome to come in if you want. And we basically went with no. They started to kind of slow down and space out. Like, as I said, I didn't want to do a whole lot of laboring at the hospital, and I didn't want to get there and be stuck there or get turned away, whatever. And so I'm just dealing with the contractions that are coming, like every 10 or 15 minutes instead, eventually, as the day goes on. Anything you want to add in here?
Let's get to Thursday.
Right, so Tuesday was a pretty normal day. I was still kind of having contractions occasionally. I couldn't sleep after I mentioned that my back was hurting, and I got out of bed like Monday night, Tuesday morning with those contractions. After that, could not lay down at all. And so Monday night I didn't sleep at it was Tuesday morning, Monday night, didn't sleep at all. The next night I kind of slept a little bit. I was propped up on the couch and I could sort of sleep for about an hour and a half at a time. Then I would have a contraction strong enough to wake me up, and then I would go back to sleep. Next day, it's sort of like the first experience of labor where I'm in a lot of pain. I'm having these contractions, but they're still not getting quite long enough. And I just got to the point where I'm like, if I go into labor, I have had so little sleep in the past several days, I'm not going to be able to handle it. The contractions, I was in so much pain. Poor Eric was like, what can I do for you? And nothing. And so finally, Thursday, I had an appointment with Dr. Joe at 1:45, but I decided we got to go in because I can't handle it. And I expected that they were going to give me medicine or something so that I could sleep or to stop the contractions or whatever, like enough that I could rest until I actually went into labor. So that's where I'm at. We've got all the stuff packed up for the hospital just in case, but I'm thinking they're going to tell me, you're at 2 centimeters and I just want to rest. That's what I'm going into the hospital thinking.
So I'll take over
go
from
ahead,
there.
yeah.
So I'm sleeping here on this couch, and she's not sleeping over there. 10 o'clock in the morning, Thursday rolls around, and she grabs my foot, and she shakes me awake, and she says, it's time to go to the hospital. And I say, what? And she's just whining, But she hadn't slept in 2 days. I understood this, and she said it hurts a lot, but the contractions were still not where we wanted them to be time-wise. But I said, okay, give me a little bit. I took about an hour. I took my time because I wanted to take my time. So that she'd keep contracting. Like if we were going to go anywhere, I wanted us to go forward and not go into the hospital and get told, no, in fact, your circus got smaller and go home, That's not what happened. We left about an hour later. We got to the hospital, and maybe an hour and a half later, since when we left home, she was in the delivery bed, and we thought, again, we're just going to check it out. The nurse comes in, and she checked her. Water breaks, and she was at between 8 and 9 centimeters. And so what we thought had been false labor for almost 4 days wasn't false at all. It was just ineffective juvenile labor, maybe you'd say. It wasn't systematic, it wasn't rhythmic in the way that labor normally, typically, and expectedly should be. And so that far along, of course, we think, this is it. We're going to have the baby in like 10 minutes.
They rushed Dr. Joe over.
Dr. Joe was there in 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. He was there, and he was ready to go, ready to catch, ready to walk in and just catch the baby. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and Tori stopped progressing. Almost as soon as she hit the bed, it was like she didn't move another inch
and it's
or
quite
centimeter.
possible that I had been at 8 centimeters wherever I was.
For a day.
Yeah. Since Monday, and we just didn't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, no, absolutely. And so at this point in the game, we've got to get Tori to 10 to deliver. But she wouldn't move, and so they started her on a round of Pitocin, which is a drug that's many of you know, I'm sure, meant to encourage and to increase the frequency of contractions. It can be somewhat painful. And so, but it was our option. It was our option at the time. And so I said, well, let's just try it for an hour. And
I would just add in here, like, we had hoped that I wouldn't have any medicine like that I would just labor naturally. That was our goal, and
indeed,
Dr. Joe knew that, But I mean, we got to that point. It's like nothing. They let me labor for 4 hours, and I didn't get anywhere at all.
Well, indeed, at that point, some would say, well, if she was in so much pain, why didn't she have an epidural? It was too late in the game. Keep in mind, Dr. Joe, very cerebral, but a real genius in his own way. And so he has this clock going in his head that's got like 100 hands on it. And he's thinking of, all the timings for the medication and how long after the water breaks does the baby have to be safe. But she's this far dilated, like how far has the baby been in the canal and all this different stuff. Like he's got all these things going on in his head. All we're thinking about is Tori really hurts a lot and we want to get it over with. We want to get the baby out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And so after an hour of Pitocin, which required really incredible concentration on Tori's part, she never screamed, she never cried. I rode you kind of hard, though. I mean, I didn't let you get away with anything. Like, we were very focused. Her parents were there, which was a great help to me and to her. But after an hour, no progress. If anything, things were maybe getting worse.
I was swelling, and so not getting any more dilated, but things were actually getting worse because I'm swelling up there. There's more pain, and there's less space for her head to come out.
And so, yes, there was the possibility of continuing, of going further, okay, trying to labor more. There are no other drugs at that point, okay, nothing that exists in the world that can help after Pitocin. Only more Pitocin, which would just make it hurt more. I don't know if they told you, but they did double your drip after a half an hour. She came in and
didn't know that.
She came in.
They told me they were going to put like the lowest dose that they could, and I had no idea that it ever went.
It went from 2 to 4. And so
that's how much I was just concentrating on getting through the contractions. I have no clue what was going on except that Eric and my mom were next to me telling me how, like, oh, you hit the peak. Okay, you're coming down now. It's okay.
And so, unfortunately, though, with no progression, and again, remember Dr. Joe, he who knows better than we do, no matter what we think we know. He's got that clock running in his head, and really, actually, alarmingly, the rate of infection and stillbirth just skyrockets. Like after you break the water, like the longer you're hanging out, not getting the baby out of your body, the higher the rate of risk goes. I mean, it just shoots up, And so then the only other option was, of course, cesarean section.
Right. And granted, once your water breaks, I think they usually say like 24 hours, but nothing is happening. So like, who cares if I'm not going to labor for 24 hours with nothing happening at all when I'm already at 8 centimeters, whatever. Anyway. Yeah,
and so then that was the decision we had to make, because that was the only one we could make, was to have a C-section. And keep in mind, of course, one, this was our last resort, but all the steps we could have taken in between, we couldn't have taken, because she had already been, she dilated so far, she had progressed so far in labor completely without our knowing, that we missed a lot of other chances to do other things. It's too bad. This is not a defeat or a failure. We didn't do anything wrong. And so hopefully, you'll all understand that. No one jumps at a C-section. Well, some people do, of course, But and actually, to some degree, keep in mind, remember what I said, that Tori really, in a fundamental way, had been laboring for 72 hours, in its own way. You talk about girls saying, I labored for 30 hours or 40 hours. Tori had been doing it for 4 days, in a sense, And even though it wasn't consistent like you see in the movies or whatever, which labor can be like that, it wasn't like that, but it was long, drawn out, no sleep for at least, 2.5 days. But really from like Sunday night to 10 o'clock a.m. on Thursday. And so
Monday night to Thursday, but yeah.
Well, I would say after we got back from Kroger is when you started to feel more pressure.
Whatever. Days, that's the point.
Yeah. And so there's no judgment to be had, okay? And if you want to make a fuss, that's like go to hell. That's what I'd say, because Dr. Joe looked at her and he looked at me and he said, "Do you want it to be over?" And we said, "Yes." Yeah. She couldn't do anymore. She was done. Again, not all the drugs in the world could have fixed it. And so we said, "No more drugs. We're finished. Let's just do the C-section, get it out, boom." And so, if we can kind of go quickly, but I know there's a lot to say.
So long.
And so they take her away. I mean, there's a lot of preparation. They got to call people in, operating room staff. It takes a while, maybe about a half an hour, to get everyone together, all the personnel, all the tools in place, etc. And so
just throw this in here. That the most difficult part for me was between, they said we're gonna have you on the Pitocin for an hour, and I'm like just focusing on getting through that. And the hour is up, and they come in and they're like, "All right, we talked about it. I'm gonna have a C-section." And at that point, like all my focus is gone. I'm just thinking, okay, they're gonna give me, an epidural or something. I'm not gonna feel anything anymore. And it's took, everyone has to come. The anesthesiologist has to come. They have to sit at the operating room. And so at that point, I'm still having. They take me off of the Pitocin, I assume, but I'm still having these contractions that's still in my system. So for an hour and a half, where I'm like, just waiting.
the limbo.
It was awful. That was the worst part, I thought.
I just wrote to Emily. I just proof. I'm trying to do like social media damage control. Okay, you can imagine, but I love it. It's wonderful. Thank you. Again, we'll say it again at the end. And so there's in that in between time. They take her away to do a spinal. Okay, maybe you're familiar with what an epidural is. A spinal is like an epidural, but it works really fast, super duper fast. We don't have time for all the details of that right now. But I know what you want to say.
It was really cool. I went from having the most pain I'd ever experienced in my life to all of a sudden like that. I can't feel anything below my arms, which I could understand. Like that would totally freak some people out. At this point, it was awesome. I'm like, this is the least pain I've ever felt in my life. It's like I'm floating in a hot bubble bath of wonderment because I could feel the pressure. Like I can tell like, oh, someone's touching my leg, but there's no pain whatsoever. And so at that point, I'm like, I think I was telling everyone in the operating room, I feel so great. Oh, this is wonderful.
Unfortunately, before she got to that point, they had to separate us. For whatever reason, the anesthesiologist will not allow another person besides medical staff in the room when they give her the spinal. Very difficult for her. She put on a little more of her baby weight in her back, and so finding that sweet spot was a little more challenging. And so they made me wait in this lobby area, and I was like ready to kill, furious. I couldn't be with her, and I can hear her crying through the door, and I want to run through the door. Like I want to knock the door down to get to her. Not that I would do anything, just to be with her. Can't be done. Okay, I can't do anything at all. Just have to wait. And they came out and they tried to just talk me down. And I mean, I wasn't like throwing things around. It wasn't like WWE or anything, But I mean, I just wanted to be with her, just to help her, just to support her, to encourage her. But finally, they bring me in, and really, I mean, in the time it would take me to describe it would be less. It would be more time than the actual C-section. I mean, 5 to 7 minutes. And Dr. Joe and Dr. Tillman worked so fast, it was magic. It was magic, spellbinding magic to watch them open her up and get that baby out. Like their hands moved so fast, the maneuvers they did, it was amazing. And then, boom, there she was, just like that. Dr. Joe reached down, and Dr. Tillman jumped on top of Tori and pushed on her abdomen, and Dr. Joe guided the head out, and he held her up, and he said, "It's a girl." Of course, at this point, as you recall, we didn't even know if we were going to have a boy or a girl. And so as this is happening, as they're opening her up and intestines are shooting out left, and that didn't happen. But I looked down and I said, what we're going to name it if it's a boy? We hadn't even decided yet. So good thing you were a girl, because we wouldn't even know what we were going to do. Anyway, so then there she is, and healthy as can be. And Tori, of course, is kind of behind a little curtain because she didn't want to see any of that stuff. And then that was it. And then it began, And we're going to show you a real special video here at the very end in just a moment. But I want to preface kind of what happened after it just real quickly. So after the video ends and you see them take the baby away, this is not some scary moment, okay? Actually, when the video cuts off, I walk around with the pediatrician. I keep saying podiatrist. That's not the right thing to say. I walk around with her, and she looks at me. The camera's off by now. And she says, "Do you want to carry the baby?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I carry the baby to the nursery, and then they do all the weighing and checking in and all that stuff. And so immediately I'm like, okay, now where's Tori? But I can't get back to her. So I couldn't be with her beforehand. I can't be with her after, because they're stitching her up and putting all her organs back in place and putting that zipper in, so next time they can just zip and pick the baby out. That's not true. It doesn't exist. But wouldn't it be great if it did? But so I'm anxious again, mad, upset, even with the baby in the thing there next to me. Like, a lot of the joy in the moment was watching Tori's parents kind of see the baby and all that stuff. That was really cool. But indeed, I just wanted to get back to Tori. Finally got back to her. She was a little loopy. I didn't like that very much, so that wasn't how I left her. As you'll see in the video, she was very clear, very collected. But then not long after that, finally, we got the whole family together. Grandma and Grandpa were there too, and we were all there together. And so that's sort of where the story ends and begins. So we each get one final thought, and then we're going to go to the video. Your final thought.
I would just say if you had any other questions about the experience, there's lots more details that we had to leave out of this. But I would be happy to talk about it. We're still kind of reflecting and processing, because we didn't expect it to go as it went, but we're all here and happy and healthy, and I'm just going to be kind of sore for a while, and, major abdominal surgery.
Indeed, we want to talk more about some of the finer details. I took a lot of video and more pictures. Of course, as you've already seen, there's no real trickery on this video. It's just us and the video that's about to come, the other one we splice in. But I'd like to do kind of like I did with my birthday, right? Like a year in review. I'd like to do something like that with this whole thing, but we start and we use the pictures and we can talk, like narrate a little bit, because there are some more instances that are interesting, like things to look at. But absolutely, we're really glad to answer questions. My final thought, besides our collective thought, which I think I can get to in a minute, is that it was very curious to me. As soon as I saw her, Hannah, in Dr. Joe's hands, I had this very strange vision. Not like an ecstasy, John in Revelation vision, but I had this immediate impression of walking Hannah down the aisle at her wedding. I didn't see a white dress, I didn't see the church, I didn't see a priest or a groom, but there was that feeling of ownership and responsibility, fatherhood, the weight and the reality of that moment just crashing down around me. Sort of, in a sense, like the connective tissue, from this moment when they hand her to me, when we walk down to the nursery, all the way up until that moment when I hand her away to someone else. It was all there in front of me suddenly, immediately. Very curiously, too. I didn't think about that. Of course, I didn't know that it was going to be a girl. If it had been a boy, what would I have thought? I don't know. My only kind of reflection is that it must be part. I mentioned it to Dr. Joe, and he said he felt something of the same when his son was born quite recently. But of course, Tori has been gestating with Hannah for a while, but I have not. Like, I've just gotten this external experience, minus the baby, and so maybe that was kind of my moment of connection to Hannah. But plenty to come. Thank you. Times, I think we've got so much gall-darn traffic on Facebook, I don't even know how many times to times it by. But we want to thank everyone for the text messages and the emails and Facebook messages and all of the likes and so many comments and the tweet. Jenna, thank you for the tweet. Or did someone else tweet too? I don't know. Anyway, Twitter is not blowing up. Facebook has been thoroughly exploded. And we really appreciate that. It was super duper encouraging to us in the moment, and I wanted to get a picture on Facebook. I said, Tori, we got to let our friends know, what happened and that she's here. Consequently, and almost finally, I know we've gone so far over, but whatever. I said 7-10 minutes, and here we are at 20, almost 25. I'm sorry, but I know that I had said before kind of what I was going to do with my ethic in this. I was going to post when we went to the hospital, and then I was going to post after the baby had been born. But Tori didn't want that. She didn't want anyone to know, besides our family, really, and I honored that. I didn't like it necessarily. I wanted all of you to know so that you could really.
My fault. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So please, what we want to say is, please don't have your feelings hurt about that. If you felt out of the loop, no one was. Well, actually, you all were left out intentionally, but no one was left out intentionally for any ill purpose.
I just didn't feel comfortable because of the circumstances surrounding it. I didn't feel like I had usual, early labor at home, and then we go to the hospital and we're excited and it gets hard, and like those things weren't happening. I didn't feel like we were progressing in that way, and obviously we didn't, and so I didn't feel comfortable making an announcement because who knew what was going to happen.
And I respected that in the moment. And for those of you who saw my secret video and sent in submissions and letters and thoughts to Tori, I only ever got to show her one thing, and that was a video from Jenna. And so Jenna got the only tweet and the only video. But I'm gonna have Tori read these in her own time. Just some wonderful thoughts, and so thank you for that. Believe me, if you'd been there, it would not have worked to read these to her. She would not have heard. She'd have heard every 100th word, and so.
I probably would have been telling him to shut up, honestly.
Shut it, yeah.
Every time people were talking about anything besides how far into a contraction I was and how soon it would be over, I didn't want to hear.
Except for when we talked about the infant Jesus and you corrected your dad. But that you said
I think that was probably between
the infant child of Prague. You were like, you mean like the baby child of Prague? And you said, no, the infant. It was like, it was funny. Anyway, we'll get more of those details in another video, twice as long as this one, no doubt. But for now, I guess I gotta go to mass soon.
Yeah.
You gotta feed baby. Dinner's smelling good. So thank you, and enjoy this special video. This is the very first time that Tori got to see Hannah, so we hope you enjoyed this little video. Thanks.
Bye.
Little kiss. Baby kiss.
Ooh, her head's rolling.
Try again. You get kissed.
Okay.
Kisses all around. Kisses for you too. Bye.
You're gonna freak. You ready?
I'm gonna have her kind of right here for you, okay? You see her? This is Hannah. I told her this is the only time that it's okay to cry. Yeah, right after you're born, right? That's the only time. Yeah. Can you see her little face? Okay.
Hi, baby.
She's got good lungs, huh? Say, I sound good, huh? I sound good. Oh, there's her little eyes. You see them opening every once in a while for just a second. Oh, there she is. She says that was dramatic. That was dramatic. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, congratulations, guys. Is this baby number 1 for you?
Yeah.
Oh, Mom. Oh, Mom. Here, let me bring her around. You can give her some kisses.
Oh, you're so soft. Hi, baby. Oh, you're having a tough time, huh?
So we're going to take her and weigh her and make sure that everything looks A-okay, all right? And then she's going to be waiting for you as soon as you're done. Okay? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. One more kiss? All right, lady. Come on. Let's go.
Dad, you can come with us.
All right. Next.